Hi guys, it's Justine, and today I am going to be doing a video on my paranormal experiences. I feel like my entire life weird shit is always happening to me, and I always assume that it's a ghost. Like ever since I was a baby, and so with Halloween coming up, and since I've started this channel just a couple weeks ago, I decided that I would do a ghost story video. So, like I said, weird stuff is always happening to me, and it's never really explainable. I'm always seeing like dark shadows out of the corner of my eye, and I just always assume, okay, it's a ghost. There's been a few experiences throughout my life that have really stuck out to me, and they're ghost stories that I tell all the time, and some people, mostly people in my family, believe me just because I've been telling these stories for so long. Whenever I tell someone the story for the first time, they never believe me. They always think I'm either dreaming or making shit up, but I'm going to tell these stories today. So I'm going to start my stories off kind of doing them in a timeline from which happened first to the one that's most recent. And I might end up doing like a part 2 to this video just because I do have so many stories. But the stories that stick out most in my memory I'm going to be doing right now. So starting off, when I was a baby, my mom and dad always tell me that I used to be that kid that would stand up in my crib and talk to someone who wasn't there. And I always kind of like shrug it off and be like, oh, I was probably just talking to myself or talking to an imaginary friend. But they always, both of them on totally separate occasions, have always told me how creepy it is that I would do that when I was a child. I'm going to start off at my grandparents' house, which this isn't really a one ghost story in particular, but it's just something that's always happened at my grandparents' house like throughout my entire life. My grandparents live in like this pretty big 3-story house, and my cousin lives with them. And when we were really little, he used to tell me that there was a dark lady who used to walk around the house. And I'm not sure how true that is, but there have been creepy things that have happened in that house. For example, in one of their hallways, they have hallway lights that are sensory motion lights, and so when you walk down the hallway they automatically turn on. And throughout my entire life, like they used to do this when I was a little kid, they still do this now, they'll randomly go on even though there's nobody there, and it's always creeped me out. The house is always making like weird noises for no reason that's unexplainable, and I've always just kind of tried to shrug it off and been like, oh, it's because it's an old house. But the thing that's always scared me the most is the doors will open by themselves. When we spend the night at my grandparents' house, my sisters and I are usually in the upstairs bedrooms, and every single bedroom in that house, I will shut the door. None of them have locks on them, but I will shut the door. I will make sure that it is shut, that it's shut all the way, and guaranteed no matter what, the door will always open, and it's just the creepiest thing ever. And so that's basically my first story. There hasn't ever been like one specific story from their house to talk about, but that's just been something that's gone on my whole life there, and I've always just assumed that, oh, it's the dark lady that my cousin always talks about. Sometimes like when I'm in that house, like I just get this like feeling that there's someone there, but I think over the years, and now that I'm older, I've kind of come to terms with it. I'm just like, okay, it's just the ghost, and it doesn't really bother me as much anymore. The next story is the most, I think, obvious ghost encounter that I've ever experienced. So this happened when I was in 6th grade, and it was before my parents got divorced. And so my parents, we were all living in one house at the time, and I had my own bedroom, and my 2 younger sisters shared a bedroom. But on weekends, we'd either watch movies and TV in my bedroom, or we would watch it in the living room. And like then all of us would either sleep in the living room, or we would all sleep in my bedroom, and we would say we were having a sleepover even though we all lived in the same house. We were just sleeping in a different room. One night we were watching Saturday Night Sleepover on Discovery Kids, and we used to watch this a lot. And so if you, I'm 21, so if you grew up around the same time I did, you might remember Discovery Kids. I don't think it lasted for very long because it's a totally different channel now. And I don't know what happened to the shows that used to be on it. I know a few of them were on Netflix, but I know Truth or Scare and Mystery Hunters, which were the shows that were part of the Scary Saturday Night Sleepover. They were on Netflix for a while, but I'm not sure if they are anymore. But my sisters and I used to watch Discovery Kids a lot. And so we were in my bedroom, and I had like a twin-size bed. And then next to my bed, I had like a big bean bag. And so my youngest sister and we were sleeping on my bed, and I was sleeping up against the wall, and she was sleeping next to me, and then our middle sister was sleeping on the beanbag, and we had all fallen asleep watching Scary Saturday Night Sleepover. And like we had probably stayed up until about midnight, and then when we had fallen asleep. And then later in the night, I had woken up, and I remember my closet light was on, and my closet was right next to the door of the room, which was on the other side of the room, on the opposite side of the room that my bed was up against. And I remember waking up, and I look over, and there was a little girl standing there, and she had curly, like blonde hair, like dirty blonde hair, and she had ringlet curls. And I was just terrified. And so I was in 6th grade at the time, and my younger, my sister, who's the middle sister, is about 3 years younger than me, and I remember thinking that that little girl was about the same age as my little sister. They looked about the same age. And whenever I tell someone else this story, they're always like, oh, it was probably just your little sister. But my little sister was sleeping on the beanbag on the floor. Like, I'm looking over at this little girl standing in my doorway in old-fashioned clothing, and I have one sister sleeping on the floor, sound asleep, and my other sister sleeping right next to me, sound asleep. And I remember I just hugged my youngest sister, and I closed my eyes really hard. And I remember I was like, my heart was beating so fast, and I was just terrified. And I opened my eyes, and the little girl was gone. And I had such a hard time falling back asleep. Like I was like shutting my eyes so tight, and I was like, just go back to sleep, just go back to sleep, because I was so scared. Oh, and then about a week after that, not even a week after that, it was a couple days after that, I was laying in my bedroom. I had a guitar sitting in the corner of my room, right next to my closet. And I remember I was like about to fall asleep, like I was in that stage of falling asleep where I was almost asleep, and then all of a sudden I hear the guitar strum, and I open my eyes and nothing is there, and I freaked out. And my parents were still awake, so I remember I ran into the living room, and I got my mom, and I was so terrified. And I was in 6th grade, I was like 11, 12 years old, and my mom had to sleep in my room for about a week because I was just so scared after those two things happening like within a week of each other. So so that house is like, my parents are divorced now, so that house is still my dad's house. He still lives there, and I still, when I visit him and like weird things happen and I hear weird things, I think I've also kind of come to terms with it, like, oh, it's the ghost in the house, and it doesn't really scare me as much anymore. But the last story, like, it still scares me, and this is actually the story that I'm most scared to tell, just because it's just, like, it scares me. So my mom lives in a new house now, and she's remarried, and I have stepsisters. So at my mom's house, we had an addition built onto the house, and basically what they did is they built 2 more rooms onto the house, and one of the rooms that was built onto the house was the old shed. And so when they had finished building the addition onto the house, since I was the oldest out of my sisters and my stepsisters, I got the new room, which was the shed, the new bedroom, which was the shed, and then the other room was basically like a playroom for us. And so I was sleeping in the shed, and I'm the oldest out of my sisters, and this like freaked me out. So, and this went on from like 8th grade through my senior year of high school. And even until now. But so I was in this room from like the end of 8th grade until my senior year of high school. And it's just, I just get the worst feeling when I'm in this room. Like there is just, this is gonna sound so cliche, but there is something in my freaking closet, and it is so just dark and it's scary, and I always have a hard time falling asleep in that room. Like I'm 21 years old now. If I sleep in that room, I still have to sleep with like the door open and with a lamp on. And ever since that became my bedroom, I always have to face the closet. Like I'm afraid to sleep with my back turned towards the closet. And so, that was my bedroom for several years, but it started getting like even scarier when I was in high school, and like I just couldn't sleep in there. And there was a period where I would only sleep on the couch in the living room because I was too scared to sleep in my bedroom. And then, so one night I went to my bedroom and I was going to sleep, and I just got like a really bad feeling like something is in here. So I went and I moved to the couch in the living room, and I remember opening my eyes and there was a huge like light blue orb floating in the doorway between like the living room and the computer room, and I was scared out of my mind. Like I ran to my sister's room, and my youngest sister from the first story, I crawled into bed with her, and it was like I was like a junior in high school at this time, and she was in middle school, and I crawled into my younger sister's bed and slept with her because I was so terrified. And I probably had to sleep with like every night I slept with either one of my sisters or one of my stepsisters in one of their bedrooms because I was so scared. And like it was really bad. It got to the point where I eventually had to switch rooms with my stepsisters. And so my stepsisters took my room, and then I took their bedroom, and that lasted for about 2 years. And then I moved out of my mom's house. But when I go back and visit my mom's house for holidays and stuff, I usually end up staying in that room, and I'm still terrified, and I still have to sleep either with the door open, with the nightlight on, mostly both, and I get the worst feeling from that room. I forgot to add that shortly before I had switched rooms with my stepsisters, my aunt does Reiki, which as far as I understand it, it's like spiritual healing. So her and my uncle, they went into that room and they were like, we're gonna check it out, we're gonna see if the ghost is in here, because I guess she knows how to do that kind of stuff. And so they go in there and they sit down and they close their eyes, and they like kind of sat there for a minute with their eyes closed, and I was just kind of staring at them. And then they open their eyes, and my uncle goes, I think it's your great grandma. And I was like, no, it's not. Whatever is in here is far too dark to be my great grandma, who passed away when I was in middle school. And then that's what they told everyone in the house, because I think by that point everyone in the house was kind of freaked out by that room, just because I was so scared of the room. And so then my cousin comes up to me and he's like, oh, I've had an experience where I've seen our great grandma before. I bet it's her. And I was like, no, it's not. Whatever is in here is not good. Like, it's dark. I get the worst feeling when I'm in that room. Given it's also, it used to be a shed. Like, anything could have gone on in there. So my aunt did like a burning of sage in that room, and then she like burned sage throughout the rest of our house, and it didn't help. Like, I was still terrified of that room, and they both agreed that I probably have like a connection to spirits and I can talk to spirits, but I just choose to shut them out. And I was just like, don't fucking say that shit. Like, I'm so terrified right now. This room scares like, I can't even explain it. Like, when you go in that room, it just feels like something is there. And it's just so scary. Like, I always have to sleep with the closet doors shut. Also, like, if the closet doors are open, I can't deal. Like, it's terrifying in there. And like, that's a story that I'm afraid to talk about the most, because when I visit my mom, that's the room I usually have to stay in. And it hasn't changed. It's still just, there's something dark in there. Like, I probably sound crazy right now and really repetitive, but it's just so creepy in there. And like, I think most of my ghostly encounters I'm able to just kind of shrug off, or I've like come to terms with, and I'm like, oh, it's just the ghost, nothing to worry about, it hasn't done any harm yet. But this is like the one ghostly experience that I'm still terrified of today. So that's it for my ghost stories. I'll probably end up doing a part 2 to this video sometime in the future, just because I do have so many ghost stories, but those are the ones that I immediately thought of when I decided to make this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!